to talk about, I think probably one of my favorite R34s, if not my favorite R34, at yesterday's GTR festival in Sydney, Australia. I don't even know how to begin. I mean, it's just so crazy. It is so beyond what I thought a R34 could be built like.
Yeah.
But this is actually a buddy of yours, and he's a little camera shy, which is fine. You'll tell us all about this incredible build, starting from the engine bay. Oh my goodness.
And this is the funny part, is this level of engine bay in Sydney, in Australia, is actually, I hate to say this, kind of normal. The titanium is a big highlight with this one compared to some other builds, but this sort of engine look and combination is actually not out of the ordinary in Sydney anymore, which is wild to think, right? Because most people you meet overseas, they think an R34, you wouldn't do much with it because of the value or collector or whatever, but in Sydney, we go all in, whether it's a 32, 33 or 34, we just go all in. So
this started life as a very, very rare version of the R34. This is a Midnight Purple 3.
Yeah.
Original Midnight Purple 3 vehicle. And for those of people who actually don't know, the engine bay wasn't actually painted.
No, that's right. A lot of GTRs don't have the same color engine bay as they do the outside of the car, whether it's a matte version of that color or whether it's just black. Most of them actually have terrible engine bay paint, to be brutally honest. I think pretty much every GTR needs its engine bay painted because they're nothing special from factory. But yeah, it surprises a lot of people when they see the black. They go, oh, is this car not Midnight Purple originally? Like, no, that's how they are. So the paint's so expensive that's probably part of the reason, and so difficult to get right that it probably wouldn't have looked great if it was done in matte in the engine bay.
So this is kind of like a Z-Tune inspiration in terms of body.
But all genuine though. So a lot of people do the Z-Tune swap with non-genuine, but this is genuine. You can see the carbon Z-Tune hood, the Z-Tune bumper, the fenders, guards or wings, whatever you want to call them on the front, but it's all genuine.
And then all refinished in the real Nissan Midnight Purple 3 paint.
Yeah. The guys with this build it originally got built in South Australia before Ricardo got it, but it has been repainted in Sydney to kind of just give it a freshen up. And you can see the quality of work as you expect from someone who runs Cultura. It's impeccable. So
this is also really, really crazy.
Yeah.
Like in terms of horsepower wise, I mean, is this something that is pretty regular here in Australia?
Look, this engine combination is a little bit, I guess, the top 1% spec, but it's not uncommon here in Australia. So this is a Bullet race engineering billet block. There's actually a lot of cars in Australia now running billet blocks on the street. At the start, a lot of people said you couldn't, but you're seeing more and more of it now. Most people run the RB30 billet block and then have, usually they have like a Nitto 3.2 stroker in it. This one is actually a 3.6 litre. So what the billet block enables you to do is have a much larger bore.
3.6 litre?
3.6.
1 litre more.
Yeah. But here's the thing, is the way that they do it is it's not just stroke, it's a bore increase. So if you've watched any of our motive videos on block testing with Platinum Racing products, you'll know that you basically can't go any bigger than 86.5 mil on the RB blocks before you risk having too thin a bore. But with a billet block, you can go 87, 88. If you want to get crazy and go custom head gasket and stuff, you can go 90 mil if you really want to. It does get quite complicated though with obviously where it attaches to the head, but you can go bigger and still have plenty of bore thickness so you don't have any problems with the block. So this is a 3.6. Bullet Race Engineering does this setup with a Kelly's crank and a larger bore. But the good thing is if you're matching the larger bore with the larger stroke, you don't lose that bore to stroke ratio that you do by having heaps of stroke and not changing the bore. So the revability is actually still there. Everyone has this assumption that an RB30 can't rev. That is ridiculous. My own RB32 revs to 9600. Goat 32 and a few other cars rev past 10,000. This can rev to 10,000. So
10,000, and then how much power does this one make in this configuration?
How much can it make? How much does it make?
How much does it make now? Because this is a street vehicle.
Street car, yeah. Put it this way, the tune that they put in it to go, here you go, Ricardo, off you go. There'll be multiple maps, but I guess the top map for the street is 1250 at the hubs on a mainline dyno. I always like to say what dyno, because it puts it into perspective, because they all read different. Measured at the rear hubs. So that's CID have tuned this car, Motec ECU, so.
What can it make?
It's an 83, 85, and that with a dash of nitrous, if you wanted to, could probably make 1500 if you wanted to. But 1250 is only on like 32, 33 pounder boost. So I know that sounds like a lot to some, but obviously in the world of big powered engines like this, that's considered relatively normal.
Honestly, while this is crazy enough, that's honestly not the craziest part of this car.
Oh, there's a lot of crazy bits.
You guys actually
I make those.
this
Yeah.
piece.
So the backstory is I've been making headlight ducts for, we're not a parts manufacturer at Motive, but essentially one day I woke up and I couldn't find a headlight duct for my 32, and I found like a copied Tomei one that didn't have a light. You couldn't buy Silk Road, they're out of production. So I just contacted someone I know that's a CAD designer and said, can you design me some headlight ducts? And then we started selling them, and just about every GTR in Australia.
What a genius thing, though, because it's so funny. You have to build your car so crazily to warrant this mod. Like, this is like the last thing that you do.
You would be shocked, though, that the amount of, I guess, it's not so much how much power it lets you make, it's the consistency. If you can imagine a GTR having an air filter here on a single turbo or twin turbo setup, they just draw so much hot air. It's all drawn through the radiator. Like, you've got your intake air temps pre-turbo are 60, 70 degrees driving around on the street. You get heat soak in the engine bay, but this thing just means as soon as you got any movement, you've got fresh air again.
And then, so tell me about the actual light. Are you able to align it, or are you able to level it?
Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. They're pretty terrible. I wouldn't go driving out in pitch black country road darkness with one of these. But honestly, the guys that put these in, they're not driving 10 hours on a country road. They're street cars that are usually driven within their hometown, or driving the truck and back, things like that. It's fine, but it's not. I'm not going to sit there and tell you that it's some highly engineered light for you, but it has a light.
But it is a pretty strong LED light too.
Yeah, it's a good LED. It's got a park light and a headlight. There's no space for a high beam, but most of the guys just run the one. The other side still means you got a high beam on the other side.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But what a great solution, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because typically I've seen the drag setups where it's the whole light.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and at the end of the day, the thing is, the exact reason I did it is I had a headlight duct with no light at all, and every time I wanted to go to the track, I had to change it. I just got over it. So I'm like, that's inspired by Silk Road, but our own design, all done in CAD, and then we ended up doing 32, 33, 34. Then we switched to do double-sided ones because some people wanted symmetry. My own car uses one on both sides. Everyone always goes, have you got a twin-turbo V8 in there? But no, it's just symmetry. So.
Can you guys back away from my car, please? Just kidding. This is not the most mental
This
GTR.
is so cool.
Like, paddle shift.
Hey, we didn't talk about that yet, but we will, though.
Yeah, I'm going to check out.
We will. It has kind of like a mild street drag setup. I don't see this in the US. Like
35 brakes.
I mean, no, I'm more talking
drag.
about the meat. So much meat. I just don't see this in Japan or in the US.
No,
it's so cool to see a 34 with this much tire.
Well, you have to. You got the amount of power. You're on 1,250 horsepower with paddle shift sequential in it. They're going to drive around on rubber bands on it, man. It's ridiculous. Like, it's a lot of guys even go 15-inch wheels here, but Ricardo wants an all-round street car, so it has R34 brakes, and to clear them, you need to have a race wheel and an 18 to clear them. And if you want on a drag radial, these are a really good 18-inch drag radial. So I'll be honest with you, man. Like, if you want to have power, you got to be able to use it, right? What's the point in having 1250 on the dyno, and then you go to a car park meet and you can't use it on the way out, right? So
it really is the king of JDM. Like, this is it. This is the king.
It's kind of interesting. It's like the number plates are King JDM, but there's so much Australian flavour in the car as well. Does that make sense? Like, this is definitely an Aussie spec GTR when you start looking at the specs of it, but it's also, it's the king of JDM. The R34 GTR really is.
This is where the magic is, and this is the part that I've never seen anything like this.
People are scared to retrim GTRs, like, because R34 seats, paying 10 grand for V-Spec 2 ones in the black version of them, and some people are just scared to touch them. But in Australia, we'll retrim and customise everything in a GTR. Like, headlining's all redone. Look at that beautiful Alcantara work,
really
double stitching. It's really good.
There is a knob. This is BMW iDrive, like you were saying.
Someone's about to go, is that an automatic GTR? No, it's technically still a manual. So in the actual transmission tunnel is an OS 88 6-speed sequential transmission. But basically PowerTune, a workshop here in Sydney, makes an adapter kit where instead of having a gear lever, there's 2 actuators on it that moves it for you, and then the ECU controls those, and then you tell the ECU via paddle. So in theory, it's a manual transmission because it still has a clutch, still has a manual transmission inside it, except instead of you using your hand, you now use your fingers. So,
Wait, but does that mean you start with first gear with a clutch?
Yes.
But then after that, you don't need to use the clutch?
Correct. You, if you want to, you can use the clutch, but you don't have to. So people get a little bit confused about this whole, is a sequential, a manual, all this sort of stuff. Our H pattern's different, blah, blah, blah. Look, a sequential and a manual, inside the gearbox, they both have an input shaft and an output shaft. They can both be either synchro or dog engagement. They can both be straight cut or helical cut. Everything about them can be the same except the shift direction. People keep carrying on about sequentials not being manual. No offense, you're wrong, because you're still controlling it with your hands. It's just a different direction. It's just the shift pattern. Yes, a sequential can have often a shorter throw. They say you can't miss a gear. Well, pretty much you're not meant to be able to miss a gear, but there's people carrying on about having a H pattern or whatever. But sorry, if you want to go fast, you want a sequential transmission, right? Like you want to worry about going fast. But this one, instead of here, is just here.
I'm assuming this is probably a program where you can just flat foot and just hit the gears.
So whether it's this or this, it's the same, right? So when you do it this way, you'll have a strain gauge telling the ECU that you want to shift. So that way it obviously cuts the ignition and has a strategy of how it cuts ignition and how it re-engages it over what time, etc. So when you usually there's a strain gauge, you pull it, it tells the ECU, and then another sensor lets you know that you're back in gear, and then the ECU brings the power back. The difference with this is, instead of it waiting for you to tell you that you've got enough strain on the gear lever, you're just going, hey, I'd like to shift.
Honestly, this is probably safer. You know,
with 1250 horsepower.
You don't have to keep your hand off. You don't have to take your hand off.
Some people actually naturally, when they're driving, when they go for the lever, they kind of naturally steer over. I've seen that in a lot of videos. It's a bit of a bad habit some people have, but honestly, if you say auto or paddle shift or whatever you want to say, that's a bit boring. Mate, try driving 1250 horsepower R34.
Can you turn it on so we can kind of take a look at the system?
So it's got double Motec dash.
Yeah, this is what blew me away. So I hear the air system probably for the shifter.
Yeah, so that's so basically it's a pneumatic shifter. So there's like airbags, there's a compressor in the boot that keeps compressed air, and these actuators are actually operated by a compressed air, so it's very quick, super quick.
But like, look how cool this is.
Yeah, cool, huh?
I mean, because it's essentially recreating the GTR original MFD, right? Is that
so with the Motec C127, you can actually do all sorts of different programs and put your own custom skins in, everything. Like, sky's the limit. And yeah, they wanted this one to sort of represent what the factory one was like, so.
That's so cool. And then when you shift, it actually shows right there.
Yeah.
And what's also cool is there's like a little bit of a GTR inspiration for the gauges right there.
So driving one of these is quite interesting because the upshift is the easy part. The downshift is the difficult part to get right and get smooth, because obviously when you want to downshift it, if you've got drive-by-wire, it can blip the throttle for you. So the best thing about paddle shift versus, I guess, the gear lever is the paddle shift means the ECU is in charge. It's actually controlling everything, while when you have a lever, you still got that manual operation where it's waiting for you to tell it what to do. While in this instance, the paddle shift can be quicker, faster, safer, and programmed to always be the perfect shift. So, and with Motec, you know, it's not, a lot of people don't understand that with the flat shift that you do with a sequential transmission, it's not just how long that shift goes for, because that can change. So not every gear shift is the same. So you really want a system that's got closed loop. And what it does is it doesn't just sense when you are trying to change gears, it senses when it's back in gear, and it changes how long that shift strategy, so how long the ignition cut happens for, changes based on RPM, boost, etc. So
look how cool this is too. They got a little rear camera button. That is so cool. All of this.
Yeah.
Who knows what's hooked up, but this is so cool that there's just this.
Yeah, some of it's self-explanatory, but you can see here, that's my favorite button, the boost button.
Oh, okay.
So you can go basically low boost, medium boost, high boost.
Wow.
Now, as much as I feel I'm qualified to drive this, it's still Ricardo's car.
Yeah, okay.
And you know what? He should definitely take it for a drive. It's his car, it's his place here, and he loves this thing. He's a super passionate owner, and he loves it. I love it too.
All right, cool. Can't
Plus,
wait.
if I drive it, things will happen.
Yeah. But this puts it to the ground, though.
Correct, yes, yeah. It definitely feels the quickest out of all the cars.
I've just never felt an R34 accelerate like that.
Yeah.
It really pushes you back in the seat, but also it feels like we're wheeling because the suspension is just getting so loaded up.
Yeah.
So the popping is the fuel cut, or when you're shifting?
Correct. Yeah.
So crazy.
So you actually feel if I don't use the clutch.
Yeah.
So if we're cruising, if I do the clutch, it's smooth as.
Right. So because when you're shifting, it actually clunks because it's shifting so fast.
Yeah. But when we're going high revs, you don't even feel it smooth.
Amazing. And then if you downshift, if it's going to rev too high, it doesn't let you.
You won't do
right?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't do it. The Motec will stop.
How convenient! Look at that. First gear, just.
So that's no clutch.
Yeah. Jeez.
Still smooth.
Very smooth.
Yeah.
I mean, for something that has this much power, it's pretty streetable.
Yeah, yeah. The car was built to be streetable.
So cool. Very impressive. How often do you get to drive this?
I try to drive it as much as I can, like a few times a month at least, weekends.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear that air pump going.
Yeah, yeah.
As you're shifting, you're using up air. It accelerates so fast, I get vertigo.
That was probably, 20-30% throttle.
Yeah, really, that's it.
Yeah. Tires are still a bit cold.
20%. It accelerates faster than it can brake.
Yeah, and I've got the 35 brakes on it.
I've never ridden in a car like this. Never. This is a new experience for me.
Thank you.
This is so cool.
My favorite part is it's still drivable.
Yeah, because it's not overheating.
No.
There's no problems. It's also not that low where you can run over speed bumps.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it has big balloon tires on it.
Yeah, it's got the big tire. I used to run it on 19s. I just put the 18s on.
This has got to give you a smile when you drive this. You can't not smile when you're in this thing. I feel like you've turned it into pretty much an R35. This is like a R34.5 in a way. But you've taken the best parts of the R34 and then our chase vehicle is really, we lost him.
He's keeping up.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That was incredible.
You're welcome.
What an experience.
I wish if I had Rego, we'll go for a nice drive this afternoon through the city. But
come to Australia, they said.
Next time
experience GTRs, they said. I almost lost my hat, not from the wind, because of the G-forces. It was like this. It was like, it just started going up and up and up. I've never experienced anything like that. That was so cool. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
What
Thank
a place.
you.
Amazing.
Pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to LarryChenPrints.com. I print and sign every single one of these. This is the perfect gift, or it's the perfect piece of art for your wall.